High above planet Vegeta, Bardock looked down at his infant son with a heavy heart, realizing that Frieza's shadow was beginning to consume their entire race. He whispered a final, desperate farewell as he pressed the launch sequence on the small space pod. The small round craft ignited its engines, shooting away from the red planet just moments before a massive supernova blast illuminated the dark vacuum of space. Kakarot drifted into a deep sleep, unaware that his homeworld had been turned into cosmic dust. Suddenly, a freak wormhole opened in the path of the pod, distorting the fabric of reality and pulling the small craft into its swirling, multicolored depths. The navigation system flickered and changed destination, abandoning Earth for a strange world on the edge of the galaxy. The pod emerged near a planet with a swirling purple atmosphere and strange, bioluminescent flora that glowed even from the high reaches of the stratosphere. It plummeted toward the surface, leaving a trail of fire as it prepared for a rough landing on Yardrat.
The impact shook the ground of a peaceful valley, creating a small crater amidst a field of tall, glowing grass that swayed in the alien breeze. Steam hissed from the pod's hatch as it slowly began to unlock, signaling the arrival of the legendary Saiyan.
Elder Pybara sensed a strange, chaotic spirit signature and floated toward the crash site with curiosity rather than fear, his robes billowing behind him softly. He looked down at the tiny, crying infant, noticing the brown tail that twitched with primal energy. Pybara gently lifted the baby from the pod, realizing that this child possessed a violent nature that could be tempered through the teachings of spirit control. He smiled kindly, deciding that Yardrat would become the sanctuary where this lost warrior would find a new path. As the years passed, Kakarot grew up under the watchful eyes of the Yardratian people, who taught him that true strength came from the balance of the mind. Instead of fighting for survival, he learned to listen to the rhythm of the planet and its inhabitants.
Goku struggled at first with his Saiyan temper, often lashing out when he failed to master a technique, but Pybara always remained patient and calm. The elder told him that a wild flame can only illuminate a room if it is contained within a lantern.
By the age of 7, Goku had already begun to master the art of spirit control, allowing him to perceive the life force of every creature. He sat atop a giant mushroom, his eyes closed in deep meditation as he visualized the energy flowing through his tiny body.
The Yardratian children played with Goku, showing him how to phase through solid objects using spiritual displacement, a skill that the young Saiyan found incredibly fun. He laughed as he popped in and out of existence, startling his playmates with his natural speed. Goku's appetite remained as vast as any Saiyan's, leading him to discover the delicious, glowing fruits that grew in the hidden groves of the planet's mountains. He would often spend his afternoons eating his fill before returning to the temple for his evening lessons with Pybara.
During a particularly intense training session, Goku accidentally tapped into his Great Ape transformation when the full moon of Yardrat rose early in the purple sky. Pybara did not panic, instead using a calming technique to soothe the beast's mind from within. Goku woke up the next morning feeling confused and tired, but Pybara explained that the power of the moon was just another energy to be mastered. He taught Goku how to suppress the primal urge, turning the chaotic power into a source of inner strength. As he entered his teenage years, Goku began his training in the Yardratian secret arts, starting with the legendary technique known as instant transmission. He practiced focusing on Pybara's unique spirit signature, trying to bridge the gap between 2 points in an instant. With a sudden pop, Goku vanished from the temple courtyard and reappeared miles away on the snowy peaks of the northern mountains, shivering but triumphant. He had successfully traveled across the planet in the blink of an eye, laughing at the sheer thrill of it. Pybara appeared beside him instantly, nodding with approval at the boy's progress, but reminding him that teleportation was only the beginning of their spiritual journey. He challenged Goku to maintain his spirit's shape while moving through the dimensions of space and time.
Goku's body began to change, becoming leaner and more agile as he focused on the quality of his energy rather than the raw quantity of his muscles. He spent days standing under a spiritual waterfall, letting the pure energy wash away any lingering Saiyan aggression.
By the time he reached adulthood, Goku had become a master of the Yardratian way, wearing the traditional pink and white vest with a sense of pride. He had become a protector of the planet, using his skills to maintain the balance of the ecosystem. One afternoon, a strange sound echoed through the atmosphere, a mechanical whine that Goku hadn't heard since he was a baby in the pod. He looked up to see a trio of fireballs streaking through the sky, heading directly toward the main settlement. Far away on a distant planet, Raditz stared at his scouter in disbelief as it picked up a powerful but strange power level coming from the sector of Yardrat. He smirked, realizing that his long-lost brother might actually be alive and thriving in a world of pacifists.
Vegeta and Nappa stood nearby, their arms crossed with boredom, as they waited for Raditz to confirm the location of the final Saiyan survivor. Vegeta scoffed, remarking that if Kakarot was on Yardrat, he was likely nothing more than a weakling who had forgotten his heritage. The 3 Saiyan pods landed with a thunderous roar, crushing several of the Yardratian mushroom houses and sending the peaceful inhabitants scurrying for cover in terror. Raditz stepped out of his craft first, his long hair flowing as he scanned the area for his brother.
Raditz laughed loudly, his voice echoing through the valley as he demanded that Kakarot show himself and take his place among the conquerors of the galaxy. He fired a small energy blast into a nearby grove, setting the glowing trees ablaze just to get attention. In an instant, Goku appeared directly in front of Raditz, his expression calm and his stance relaxed, which only served to irritate the long-haired warrior. Goku asked who they were and why they were disturbing the peace of his home with such violence.
Raditz stared at Goku's Yardratian clothing and mocked him, calling him a disgrace to the Saiyan race for wearing the rags of a weakling civilization. He told Goku the story of their heritage and their mission to find him for the glory of Lord Frieza.
Goku listened patiently, but he shook his head, stating that he was no longer Kakarot the Conqueror, but a student of the spirit who valued life above all. He warned Raditz that if they did not leave immediately, he would be forced to remove them. Nappa stepped forward with a booming laugh, his massive frame dwarfing Goku as he prepared to crush the traitor with a single blow of his fist. He swung with all his might, but his hand passed right through Goku as if he were made of smoke. Goku reappeared behind Nappa, gently pushing the giant warrior's shoulder, but the force of the spirit-infused tap sent Nappa stumbling forward into a rocky outcrop. Vegeta's eyes narrowed as he watched the encounter, realizing that Kakarot's power was far more than it seemed. Vegeta ordered Raditz and Nappa to stand down, stepping into the center of the crater with a look of cold calculation as he analyzed Goku's strange aura. He noted that Goku wasn't using physical strength, but some kind of energy manipulation he had never seen. Vegeta asked Goku how he could be so powerful without a high power level on the scouter, but Goku simply replied that numbers cannot measure the soul. He invited Vegeta to spar, promising to show him the true meaning of strength without using a single punch. Infuriated by the perceived insult, Vegeta launched a barrage of energy blasts at Goku, filling the air with golden light and deafening explosions that rocked the valley. Goku didn't move an inch, instead using spirit control to deflect each blast with a wave of his hand. As the smoke cleared, Goku used the multi-form technique, creating 4 identical versions of himself that surrounded Vegeta, each one radiating a different spiritual pressure. Vegeta spun around, his scouter beeping frantically as it tried to track multiple high-level targets at once. The Gokus began to move in a synchronized dance, their movements so fluid that they appeared to be a single entity flowing through the air like a river. Vegeta struck at one, but it vanished, and he was immediately hit by a soft palm strike from another.
Goku combined his forms back into one and used Forced Spirit Fission, a technique he had mastered under Pybara to separate harmful energies from their hosts. He struck Vegeta's chest, not to cause pain, but to disrupt the dark, aggressive ki that fueled the Saiyan Prince.
Vegeta felt a strange sensation as his rage suddenly began to ebb away, replaced by a terrifying sense of clarity and peace that he had never experienced. He fell to his knees, gasping for air as his scouter shattered from the sudden surge of spiritual energy.
Raditz and Nappa watched in horror as their prince was humbled by a few simple touches, and they prepared to launch a full-scale assault on the planet. Goku sighed, realizing that words alone would not be enough to stop the momentum of their destructive Saiyan instincts.
Goku closed his eyes and reached out to the spirit of Yardrat itself, asking the planet for its permission to use its vast energy to shield his home. A golden barrier began to rise around the settlement, shimmering with the collective will of the Yardratian people. Nappa charged at the barrier, slamming his massive body against the golden light, but he was thrown back by a concussive force that felt like the planet itself was hitting him. Raditz fired his double Sunday attack, but the beam simply dissolved upon contact with the shield.
Goku appeared in the air between the two Saiyans, his hands held out as he began to weave a complex pattern of light that paralyzed their movements. He told them that they were fighting a battle they could never win, because they were fighting against the universe itself.
Vegeta slowly stood up, his eyes now filled with a strange mix of resentment and curiosity as he looked at Goku, who was floating serenely above his comrades. He ordered the others to stop, stating that they were clearly outmatched by a power they didn't understand. Goku descended and released Raditz and Nappa, offering them a chance to stay on Yardrat and learn the ways of the spirit just as he had done. He explained that Frieza was the true enemy and that their destiny was not to be slaves to a tyrant. Raditz scoffed at the idea of becoming a pacifist, but Nappa looked around at the peaceful world and then at his own bruised hands, wondering if there was another way. Vegeta remained silent, his mind racing with the tactical advantage that Yardratian techniques could provide against Frieza. Vegeta finally spoke, stating that he would stay, but only to master these techniques so he could eventually kill Frieza and reclaim his throne. Goku laughed, telling Vegeta that as long as he sought the power for a purpose beyond destruction, the planet would teach him.
Over the next few months, the three Saiyans began their training under Elder Pybara, though their progress was much slower than Goku's due to their ingrained pride. They looked ridiculous in their oversized Yardratian training gear, but they didn't dare complain under Pybara's stern gaze.
Raditz found it particularly difficult to sit still, often sneaking away to practice his combat moves, but Goku would always find him and remind him to breathe. Goku showed him how to channel his ki into his hair, making it a defensive weapon that could sense incoming attacks. Nappa, surprisingly, became excellent at the art of gigantification, a technique that allowed him to grow to a massive size while maintaining his speed and agility. He laughed as he towered over the mushroom forests, feeling like a true god of destruction without the need for malice. Vegeta focused solely on instant transmission and spirit fission, realizing that if he could drain Frieza's energy, the tyrant's overwhelming power would become his greatest weakness. He spent nights alone on the high cliffs, practicing the precise movements required to fold space.
As the Saiyans integrated into Yardratian society, Goku felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known, seeing his brothers find a new purpose in life. He often spent his evenings looking up at the stars, wondering if there were others out there who needed to find their inner peace. However, their peace was short-lived, as a massive fleet of Frieza Force ships appeared on the radar, having tracked the Saiyans' pods to the planet. The tyrant himself was leading the invasion, furious that his most valuable soldiers had seemingly deserted his ranks for a world of weaklings. Goku sensed the cold, murderous intent of Frieza from miles away, and gathered his fellow Saiyans, telling them that it was time to put their training to the ultimate test. Vegeta smirked, stating that he had been waiting a long time to show Frieza the new face of the Saiyan race.
The Frieza Force soldiers began to descend in thousands, but they were met not with an army, but with a series of spiritual traps that Goku and the Yardratians had prepared. Soldiers found themselves teleported into holding cells or having their weapons phased out of their hands. Frieza stepped out of his hoverchair, his eyes narrow with rage as he watched his elite soldiers being neutralized by a group of peaceful-looking aliens and his former servants. He demanded that Vegeta show himself, promising a slow and painful death for his betrayal.
Vegeta appeared before Frieza in a flash, but instead of bowing, he stood tall, and told the tyrant that his reign of terror over the Saiyans was over. He explained that they had found a power that Frieza could never understand because it required a heart.
Frieza laughed hysterically at the mention of a heart, firing a death beam directly at Vegeta's forehead with lightning speed. To Frieza's shock, Vegeta didn't move, the beam simply passed through his head as if he were a ghost, leaving him completely unharmed. Vegeta reappeared behind Frieza and struck his back with a Spirit Fission palm, causing the tyrant to scream as his power level began to fluctuate wildly. Frieza transformed into his second form, his muscles bulging as he tried to stabilize his spiraling energy. Nappa and Raditz joined the fray, using their new Yardratian skills to harass Frieza from all sides, teleporting in and out of his reach before he could land a blow. They weren't trying to kill him yet, but rather to exhaust his spirit and drain his will to fight. Frieza, pushed to his limit, skipped directly to his final form, his body becoming sleek and white as he unleashed a wave of destruction that leveled the surrounding hills. He roared that he would destroy the entire planet if he had to, just to kill the four of them. Goku stepped forward, telling his friends to stand back as he prepared to show Frieza the ultimate technique of the Spirit Masters. He began to glow with a brilliant white light, his hair standing on end as he tapped into the collective spirit of the planet. Goku didn't use a Kamehameha. Instead, he created a massive sphere of pure, cleansing energy that radiated warmth and peace rather than heat and destruction. He launched the sphere at Frieza, who tried to block it with a supernova blast, but the dark energy was simply absorbed. The white sphere engulfed Frieza, and for a moment, the tyrant's screams of rage turned into a stunned silence as the Forced Spirit Fission reached its peak. The dark energy that Frieza had spent his life accumulating was stripped away, leaving him in his weakest, most vulnerable state.
Frieza fell to the ground, reverted to his first form, and gasping for air, his power so low that even a Yardratian child could have defeated him. He looked up at Goku with terror, unable to comprehend how a Saiyan could have defeated him without even trying to kill him.
Goku told Frieza that he was being exiled to a distant barren moon where he would have eternity to reflect on his crimes and the lives he had destroyed. With a snap of his fingers, Goku used a long-range instant transmission to send the tyrant away forever. The remaining Frieza Force soldiers surrendered immediately, seeing their master defeated so easily, and they were given the choice to return to their homes or stay and learn a new way. Many chose to stay, intrigued by the power that had humbled the most feared man in the galaxy. Vegeta approached Goku, admitting that while he still found the peace talk annoying, he couldn't deny the effectiveness of the Yardratian techniques. He asked Goku what their next move was, now that the galaxy was finally free from the grip of the Cold family. Goku smiled and said that there were still many worlds that needed help and many spirits that were out of balance. He suggested that they form a new group of protectors, traveling the stars not as conquerors, but as masters of the spirit who bring harmony. Raditz laughed and said he liked the idea of being a spirit guardian, mostly because it meant he could still travel the galaxy and show off his power. Nappa agreed, noting that he had always preferred being a teacher to being a mindless soldier anyway.
Elder Pybara watched them from the temple balcony, feeling a deep sense of pride in the boy he had raised as a son. He knew that the legacy of Yardrat was in good hands, and that the Saiyan race had finally found its true potential in the balance of the spirit. Months later, the four Saiyans prepared their modified space pods, which were now powered by spiritual energy rather than fuel, allowing them to travel vast distances in mere seconds. Goku gave Pybara a final hug, promising to return often to share what he had learned.
As they launched into the sky, the Yardratian people gathered to cheer for their champions, waving colorful banners and releasing glowing energy orbs into the atmosphere. The four pods left a trail of beautiful blue light as they exited the planet's gravity. Their first stop was Earth, a planet that Goku felt a strange, lingering connection to even though he had never visited it. He wanted to see if the people there were as peaceful as the stories his navigation computer had once described in its original mission.
Upon landing, they were met by a young woman with blue hair and a group of martial artists who were wary of the new arrivals. Goku stepped out and greeted them with a friendly wave, his calm energy immediately putting everyone at ease despite his intimidating Saiyan stature.
Goku explained their mission and offered to teach the people of Earth the arts of spirit control, ensuring that the planet would be able to defend itself from any future threats. Bulma was fascinated by their technology, while Roshi was impressed by their discipline. Vegeta and the others began to realize that their journey was only beginning, and that every world they visited would be a new lesson in the diversity of life. They were no longer the last of a dying race, but the first of a new generation of universal guardians. In the final moment, Goku looked toward the camera with a brilliant smile, his spirit aura flaring with the colors of Yardrat and Earth combined. He knew that wherever they went, they would carry the light of peace with them, forever changing the fate of the universe.